The 2010 Kansas legislative session has been one of the most challenging in recent history, and it's of course most challenging because of the revenues have been declining with this economic downturn and the state trying to pass a budget for the next fiscal year. The regular session adjourned at the end of March, and for what may be the first time in history, the legislature was unable to pass a budget prior to the first adjournment. Usually a budget passed, and when they come back for the wrap-up session, they come back and make adjustments to the budget one last time. But they chose not to adopt a budget at the end of March because they knew that it would be important to see what the consensus estimate would be for revenue for the balance of this fiscal year and into the next fiscal year. And instead of recreating or going back to that again in a few weeks, they just wait. So what's used to be called the veto session or the wrap-up session started last week. They came in on Wednesday, and the appropriations committees, which would be the Ways and Means in the Senate and the House Appropriations in the House, put together a package that's intended to go to the floor of the House and Senate for further consideration in regards to the budget. The House Appropriations Committee passed a budget which analysts have said uses all of the existing resources. It will have cause or need for passage of another bill or two to make it work, but nonetheless that budget does not need additional tax revenues to fund it. So that will likely be considered by the full House of Representatives next week, and there will be a lot of concerns by those who feel like some of the programs are going to be shortchanged to the extent that maybe local taxes must be raised. And of course there will be those who claim that this is a budget that needs to be passed instead of increasing taxes. On the other side of the rotunda, the Senate is going to look at a bill that just came out of the Senate Ways and Means Committee at the end of last week. And another kind of unusual circumstance is that this committee did two things. One is they set forth the budget and the amount of spending that they'll propose for the next fiscal year. But another step that they took was to propose sources of revenues or additional taxes to meet those expenditures, because their budget was about $418 million more than what's projected to come into the state unless new taxes are added. So they did propose this budget, and they have proposed a 1% increase in the state sales tax, also an increase in the tobacco tax, and another denial of a state deduction that's used federally for corporations that do production purposes. And we're still trying to gather more information about that particular exemption. And so this week you'll see the Senate take that on, and what we won't know until perhaps later in the week is where is the most support in both the House and the Senate for a package that has no taxes or some tax increases, or maybe something in between what's been proposed so far. As far as the Kansas Livestock Association, we'll be continuing to monitor this and learning more about the various proposals. The one proposal that we feared at the start of the session was that they would go back and look at sales tax exemptions, which would apply to many sales tax exemptions that have been in place since the sales tax was first implemented in Kansas, and those might potentially be on various inputs that farmers and ranchers buy for their operation. Thus far, that has not been put out in a serious or formal manner, but as they wrap up the session finally, which may happen at the end of this week, there'll be a lot of different proposals floated out there. So it'll be interesting to see, but I think we'll be closer to being done here in the next few days.